Dear students, I am Dr. Shampurna Sen, Assistant Professor in the Department of Pathology, Ardin Sokina Women's Medical College, Joshua. Today I am going to discuss the chapter of wound healing, and regarding this chapter we should have the concept of regeneration, repair, wound healing, then the classification of cells according to the proliferative capacity, angiogenesis, granulation tissue, cutaneous wound healing, that includes the healing by primary intention and healing by secondary intention, then the factors affecting the wound healing and the complications of wound healing. So first we have to know the definition of wound healing. So wound healing can be defined as restoration of tissue architecture and function by proliferation of viable cells after an injury. So when there is an injury, after that injury, if tissue restore its structure and function by proliferation of viable cells, then we call it wound healing. So wound healing involves two distinct processes. These are regeneration and repair. So definition of regeneration. When wound healing occurs by proliferation of parenchyma cells and there is almost complete restoration of the tissue components that lost or damaged, then we call it regeneration. So in the regeneration process, there is proliferation of parenchymal cells. Now anyone can ask me what is parenchyma and parenchymal cells. So in our body, in every organ, there are two parts. One is parenchyma, that is the functional part, and the other part as the supporting structure, that is stroma. So the functional part of an organ is called parenchyma. So in case of regeneration, there is the proliferation of the parenchymal cells. The example of regeneration is a liver. In liver, if there is 60% damaged or if liver is rejected, then liver can regenerate to its normal structure within the time of only 1 month. So liver is an example of regeneration. Now repair. When healing occurs by proliferation of connective tissue and there is scar tissue formation and fibrosis, then we call it repair. So in case of repair, there is no proliferation of the parenchymal cells, only the proliferation of the connective tissue components. Now we have to know the classification of cells according to their replicative capacity. But before going to the classification, I will discuss the cell cycle in brief. So cell cycle is the sequence of events that follow the cell division. So it is the time period between two successive cell division. In case of cell cycle, there are some phases like G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase and M phase. In case of G1 phase, that is gap 1 phase, it is a pre-synthetic phase and protein and RNA synthesis usually occurs in this phase. Then comes the synthetic phase. In synthetic phase, there is DNA duplication and replication. That is, DNA replication occurs and chromosome number become doubled. And the G2 phase or gap 2 phase, that is pre-mitotic phase. Here in this phase, the error are checked that occurs in the synthetic phase. And the mitotic phase, it is a short time where cell division occurs. There is another phase, that is G0 phase or resting phase, where the cells that not enter into the cell cycle reside in this phase. Now the classification of cells according to the replicative capacity. According to the replicative capacity, we can classify cells into 3 categories. First one is labile cell, another name is continuously dividing cell. Number 2, stable cell or quiescent cell, and number 3, permanent cell. So what are the labile cells? Labile cells are those which have highest replicative capacity and they can enter into the cell cycle and their journey start from one cell cycle to another cell cycle throughout the life. The examples of labile cells are squamous epithelium, like stratified squamous epithelium of skin, oral cavity, and columnar epithelium of gastrointestinal tract, transitional epithelium of urinary tract. These are the examples of labile cells. Now the stable cells or quiescent cells. These cells do not have replicative capacity without the stimulation. They have low level of replicative capacity and they never replicate until or otherwise they get any stimulus or if there is any injury. So the example of stable cells are the vascular endothelial cells, the parenchyma cells of liver, kidney, pancreas, the mesenchymal cells like fibroblast and myofibroblast, and the inflammatory cells that are the lymphocytes and other leukocytes. Now the permanent cells. Permanent cells have no replicative capacity. They cannot undergo mitotic division in the postnatal life. They have lived the cell cycle. The examples of permanent cells are neuron, cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle. So these are the three types of cells according to the replicative capacity. Now we have to understand the process of repair. So process of repair include two steps. One is formation of granulation tissue and the other is wound contraction. So granulation tissue. Granulation tissue is an important hallmark of tissue repair. So granulation tissue is a specialized tissue that consists of newly formed blood vessels and fibroblasts over the surface of the wound during the healing process. And there are some characteristics of the granulation tissue, that's why it is named so. And these characteristics are: granulation tissue is pink, granular in appearance, soft in consistency, easily bleed on touch because of the rupture of the newly formed capillaries, and insensible due to lack of nerve supply, and newly formed granulation tissue is edematous. Now the component of granulation tissue, mainly newly formed blood vessels and fibroblast, myofibroblast and some inflammatory cells like lymphocyte, macrophages and plasma cells. Now the function of the granulation tissue. The function of granulation tissue usually the resorption of necrotic tissue, fibrin or thrombi, and replacement of any defect on the skin surface or mucous membrane, walling of an abscess. So these are the functions of granulation tissue. In the process of formation of granulation tissue, there is the first phase is inflammatory phase, where the inflammatory cells like neutrophil and monocytes become predominant, and the second phase is clearing phase, where the enzymes that are released from neutrophil and the autolytic enzymes that release from dead cells, and with the help of macrophages the necrotic debris become cleared. And the final phase, ingrowth of granulation tissue, that include two stages, one is angiogenesis and another is fibrogenesis. Now we have to know the process of angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is the process of formation of new blood vessels in the adult life, and angiogenesis can occur by two processes. One is from pre-existing blood vessels and another is from stem cells. So the mechanism of formation of new blood vessels from pre-existing blood vessels are: the first one is there is vasodilation, that is stimulated by nitric oxide, and there is increased vascular permeability, that is stimulated by vascular endothelial growth factor. The second one is there is breakdown of the basement membrane by the enzymes like matrix metalloproteinases. So what is the aim of this breakdown? Until or otherwise this basement membrane is not broken, then the endothelial cell cannot migrate to the site of injury or site of angiogenic stimulus. So when there is breakdown of this basement membrane, the endothelial cell can migrate to the site of angiogenic stimulus. Then there is proliferation of these endothelial cells behind the migrating endothelial cells. After that, there is maturation of these endothelial cells, and these endothelial cells can remodeled into the capillary tube. Then there is recruitment of periendothelial cells like pericytes from the small capillaries and the smooth muscle cells from the large vessels, and they ultimately contribute to the formation of the mature blood vessels. So this is the process of angiogenesis from the pre-existing blood vessels, and the process of angiogenesis from stem cells. There is a cell called endothelial precursor cell that remain within the bone marrow, and from this bone marrow this endothelial precursor cell migrate to the site of injury or the site of angiogenic stimulus, then angiogenesis occurs. But the exit mechanism of this migration is still uncertain. So this is the process of angiogenesis. Then the second phase is fibrogenesis. So fibrosis occurs around the blood vessels, and two types of cells contribute to this fibrosis. One is fibroblast and another is myofibroblast. The fibroblast derive from the fibrocyte, or it may derive from the mitosis from the pre-existing fibroblast. And myofibroblast, myo means smooth muscle cell. So myofibroblast, these cells have intermediate characteristics between the smooth muscle cells and fibroblast. So these two cells contribute to the fibrosis. The second step is wound contraction. Wound contraction usually begins in the wound healing within 2 to 3 days and completed by the 2 weeks. And major factor that contribute to this wound contraction is myofibroblast. I already told that myofibroblast, these cells have intermediate characteristics between the fibroblast and smooth muscle cell. So this myofibroblast can contribute to wound contraction and can reduce the wound size as much as 80% from its original size. So this is wound contraction. So up to now I discussed the regeneration, repair, wound healing definition, the process of repair, the classification of cells according to their replicative capacity, and the process of granulation tissue formation and angiogenesis. So remaining topics will be discussed in my next class. So I hope you all understood what I discussed today. Thank you all.